Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by one of our sisters, and the message reads like this. Hello, my brother, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? My brother, I am a 35-year-old woman, but I am from Zim. I am living with my husband and two of my daughters here in South Africa. My firstborn child, she is now at university, at a certain university here in Johannesburg. So me and my husband, we can say that we are living the best of the best life, and life is really good. That is all that I can say. Me and my husband, we are staying in these so-called gated communities where there are a lot of millionaires just like me and my husband. But things were not like this when I met my husband, because I met my husband here in South Africa. This was after I had ran away from home and came here to South Africa. The reason as to why I ran away from my first husband, it was because of poverty. I do not want to lie. Things were really bad for me and my husband. What we used to do, me and my husband, for us to put food on the table, when people would have planted their maize, then when the maize will be okay, after people would have taken their maize out of the fields, then we would go around picking up the remains. That is how we used to survive. Things were not okay for me and my husband. My husband, I then saw that he had good luck, but at the same time he had bad luck. I don't know if people can understand me. I then found about this when I had gone to visit this other prophet. So I went to that prophet that I had once dated, and I spoke with him about this issue. And when he was looking into the spiritual realm, he then saw that my husband, he was a gifted man who was supposed to be rich, but some of his relatives, when he was about 1 year old, there was one of his auntie who was his father's sister. When he looked at my ex-husband, that was when she saw that my ex-husband was destined for greatness. He was supposed to be rich. The same riches that we have today, they were supposed to be his riches. So when this prophet spoke with me about this issue, I then said, what are we supposed to do? Because I am tired of being poor, yet I married a man who has a spiritual gift. Then that prophet then said that if you want, you can assist me. At that time, this prophet, he was struggling a lot. What was happening to him was that he would have these visions. Let's say if you would go to his church, he would actually have a vision, and he will tell you everything that will happen like to you in your future. But the problem that he was facing was that he did not have the gift of changing the future. So that was what he wanted. He wanted to assist people. If you come to him and if he sees that 3 months down the line you are going to get sick, he wanted to at least have something to give to you so that you can avoid being sick. So he then told me that since my husband had a spiritual gift, he actually wanted to steal my husband's spiritual gift, and in return he was going to give me my husband's wealth. So that time when he told me that this is what he wanted us to do, and I then said, no, I cannot do that, because this was like your pure witchcraft. And I then ran away from home and I came here to South Africa. I still remember that when I came to South Africa, I only had 60 rands. Then I started to work at this other farm. So at that same farm, that was where I met my current husband. So we then started staying together as husband and wife. I tried to fall pregnant for him, but unfortunately I could not fall pregnant. I kept on going around visiting some prophets like here in South Africa, but still things were not changing. It was only after me and my husband, my current husband, had traveled back to Zim. We then went to that same prophet, but my husband does not know that I once slept with the same prophet that we visited. When we went to that prophet, the prophet took us into his consultation room and he told me the same story again, and he said that I could actually take my ex-husband's destiny. So I agreed, but after my current husband had convinced me. After he had convinced me, all that I had to do was to go and perform a ritual. So the ritual that I performed was that I first slept with my husband, my current husband, and I did not bath myself like his semen. I kept it in my private part. I took a cotton ball, then I placed a cotton ball in my private part so as to keep his semen that he had deposited into my private part. Then I went to the village where I was once married. When I arrived there, I pretended as if I wanted my ex-husband back. So by sleeping with him, and I then returned back to that same prophet, my brother, it was not an easy thing to do, because I spent about 7 days without bathing just to keep his semen in my body. We kept on making love until the day that I left his compound and I returned back home. This, my husband, he knows that this is the sacrifice that I had to do so that we can make money. And after I had returned, we then went back to that prophet, and that prophet then gave me a clay plate and told me to go into another room, and I was supposed to remove the semen that was inside my private parts. So I squeezed everything out, and it was smelly. It was really smelly, like for 7 days without bathing, yet having intercourse with a man each and every day, unprotected sex. So after I had removed some of the semen and the discharge that were in my private parts, I then took that same clay plate and I gave it to that same prophet, and that prophet, he did whatever that he did, and he told me that at least now all that we had to do was to climb up this other mountain that is in our village. So we went, it was me, my husband, my kids, and that prophet. We then went into this other cave. That was where he left that clay plate, and he said that he was still going to come back to that same mountain so that he can spend another week whilst he was fasting. And him fasting, he was trying to ask the Holy Spirit so that the Holy Spirit can remove that gift of the spirit that was on my ex-husband, so that it can be placed on top of that prophet, because the prophet was going to negotiate with God and to show God that my husband was not using his free gift that was given to him by the Holy Spirit. So all that was needed was for God to transfer those powers to him. And yes, that was what happened. So as for me, the moment that we left that clay plate in that same cave, that was when I lost my own womb. This was what we were told by that prophet. As for my daughters, they didn't know that these were rituals that were being performed. We just said that we were trying to pray so that God can open up the doors for us whilst we were in a foreign land. Me and my current husband, we came back, and when we came back, to our surprise, my brother, when we were in Messina, instead of using the taxi to come to the province where we were working in the farms, we then went to the hiking spot. When we went to the hiking spot, I still remember that the man who stopped his car, it was a Toyota Runex, and this guy, he told my husband that he was a policeman and he wanted to start building his house there in the location where he was staying. My husband, he was also a builder, but he was just working at that farm, working as a builder. That was the first project that my husband got. From there on, that policeman's friends kept on saying that my husband was a really good builder, and my husband, he started his own construction company until we reached the point where we are right now. But what happens is that my womb, which we were told by that prophet that I left it in that cave as I placed that clay plate onto the ground in that same cave, my womb is the one that calls all of these clients so that they can give my husband all the contracts that he gets. So that is how me and my husband started to make our money. Fast forward, my brother, many years later, after my ex-husband had passed away, for his gift had been stolen and he was almost left without a soul, and he then passed away. After he had passed away, I then took my daughters, and the reason as well as to why my husband had to die, he was giving me a lot of problems. Look, I had spoken with him and I told him that God had favored me and my current husband. So I was asking for his permission. I wanted our daughters to come and study here in South Africa, because the education, to be true, it is becoming much, much better here in South Africa. So I wanted them to get the best education at the private schools. But my ex-husband, he then said that he was not going to give me that permission because he had to sign off. I then spoke with that prophet after my husband had refused, and he said that he was not going to sign off because there was a place where he was supposed to sign off so that my daughters can be able to get their student visas coming here to South Africa. But that prophet then said that it was an easy thing to do. So I got my husband killed by that prophet because I didn't want him to give me more problems. So I am like the only legal guardian for my daughters right now. So they are with me here in South Africa. The reason as to why I have contacted you is that my husband is now giving me problems. Ever since he started making money here in South Africa, he can't stop chasing after these young South African women, and I do not want to keep on having these women killed. So far, there are two of them who used to stay in the same estate where me and my husband stay. So he started dating these two young South Africans, and I told them and I begged them to stay off from my husband, but they kept on dating him anyway, and I had to do some prayers for them so that they can die. One of them, she died. She got involved in a fatal road accident. The other one, she just complained of a headache, then she passed away. I am tired of doing this. I do not want people to continue dying so that I can enjoy life. For my husband, he says that he feels so much sadness because he wants to have a child, but I can't conceive because he knows that I left my womb in that mountain. Please just give me some advices. What am I supposed to do? Yo, dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by our dear sister. Yo,